Welcome to LA Controversial, your inside guide to the more colourful side of life in the spotlight. Courtisan Calvin Broadus, more commonly known as hip-hop superstar Snoop Dogg, is well acquainted with both meanings of the word rap. Since hitting it big with Doggy Style in 1993, he's racked up almost as many court appearances as he has stage shows. Even while recording his breakthrough debut album, he was arrested in connection with the death of a rival gang member. Snoop's tough lyrics and languid singing style helped define the gangster rap movement, along with his womanizing and public pot smoking. But in 2002, he seemed to be turning over a new leaf.
I just didn't want to get high in public no more, you know. Same way I wanted to, I didn't want to, you know what I'm saying? It's just simple as that. You know, taking some steps with myself as far as the way people look at me and perceive me. So the way I'm out there in public sometimes gives off a bad vibe, you know, so I want to just change all of that.
However, his new career as a positive role model was short-lived. In May 2005, at a concert in Seattle, a fan was allegedly beaten unconscious by security guards as Snoop and the Game looked on. The next year, he and his entourage smashed up a duty-free shop at Heathrow Airport. He was cautioned for a fray and denied access to the UK for the foreseeable future. But that didn't put him off airports. A few months later, he was found carrying a police baton by airport security in California. The following month, he was arrested at Bob Hope Airport for parking in a passenger loading zone and being found in possession of marijuana and a firearm. He pleaded no contest and once again promised to be good.
He knows that he will go to state prison, no ifs, ands, or buts, if he violates probation. It's very, very important.
With all that pot playing havoc with his short-term memory, he promptly appeared to have forgotten his promise when he was arrested in March 2007, just 1 year later, for reeking of marijuana in Stockholm. That arrest, in the wake of his duty-free shop-smashing spree in London, put paid to his plans to perform in Britain and Australia, although lucky fans in Germany did get to see him perform on a joint headlining tour with P. Diddy. 2 years later, he was back on the court stage to answer charges that he did more than just stand by and watch during the aforementioned beating of a fan in Seattle. Richard Monroe accused Snoop of hitting him over the head with a brass knuckle microphone, but he was eventually cleared of the charges. If you click on marthastewart.com, you'll find plenty of tips on decorating your home, revitalizing your garden, or conjuring up treats in the kitchen. Special times of the year, like Halloween, are particularly exciting for the one-woman brand name Martha Stewart, as she shares her favourite spooky snacks or innovative ways to carve a pumpkin in the jack-o'-lantern style. It's a formula that has worked very well for the ex-stockbroker and fashion model who became America's favourite domestic goddess upon the release of her best-selling book Entertaining in the late 1970s. 1993 heralded the launch of a weekly half-hour show based on her magazine Martha Stewart Living, a publication that peaked in 2002 with a circulation of 2 million copies. To underline her success, in the previous year, the Ladies' Home Journal named her as the 3rd most powerful woman in America. But behind the gingham curtains, all was not quite right in the sunny world of Martha Stewart. Ominous clouds were gathering on the horizon.
Insofar as the sentencing for Martha Stewart, she's going to get jail. There's no doubt about that. The only question is, how long?
Her crime, insider trading. The prosecution claimed she had sold her shares in the pharmaceutical company ImClone just days before it was announced that the company's application for a new drug had been rejected. Although she was found guilty of lying about the reason behind the suspicious trade, America's favorite homemaker kept up the denials.
Once she was convicted, what was the first thing she did? The first thing she did was to put a statement out on her website saying, "The one thing I can tell you is I wasn't guilty."
At her sentencing, local residents of Westport were divided as to how harshly she should be punished.
Why she should be given preferential treatment? You know, if she's going to get up to 2 years in prison, then the guys who did Enron and WorldCom and all those guys are looking at 20 or 30 years. I mean, you know, it's just punishment's got to fit the crime.
She copped a 5-month prison term and a 2-year period of supervised release, including 5 months of home confinement. But upon her release, she dived straight back into the world she knew so well, rejuvenating the business that had been rocked by the disgrace with the same determination and panache she applies to her domestic projects. These days, she's back at her magazine and back on TV, with her status as the Queen of Domesticity fully restored, and her tips on Halloween pumpkin carving once again regarded as gospel. Ellen Page's place on our list of controversial characters has been reserved more for the role she's played on screen than for any scandals in her private life. In fact, the Canadian Oscar nominee, who has been described as frighteningly talented, so far seems to have led a squeaky clean existence, unlike her character in the 2005 film Hard Candy, about a disturbed teenager who turns the tables on a child molester.
In a nutshell, they have predator versus prey, and the predator becomes the prey. It's about an internet stalker who lures a girl back to his house, and it doesn't go as planned.
During the film, Hayley binds and drugs her male stalker before getting out the scalpel and heading for his nether regions.
You know, I was at a screening last night where someone passed out in the middle of the film, and it was very disturbing, and he was okay, but we've had all kinds of reactions from that to people just threatening us, to people being very appreciative. And we hope that people take the film the right way. And the right way is that it's to provoke thought.
At the premiere, 18-year-old Ellen was unfazed by all the controversy. She just invited viewers to keep an open mind.
There's no safe answers. There's sympathy shift for both characters, and I think that really frightens people because we're used to be kind of spoon-fed answers by films, and you don't get that at all in this film.
In 2007, she pushed the boundaries again in Juno by playing a 16-year-old who finds herself lumbered with an unwanted pregnancy. She decides to have the baby and give it to an uptight, childless yuppie couple. Once again, Ellen had no problem with playing a controversial character, this time for laughs.
As corny as it sounds, I think it's about, being sincere as possible, being as honest in yourself as possible, and I think Juno is extremely unique, and she's completely her own person, and I love her for that, and I think it's great that we have a teenage female character like her.
And since becoming one of Hollywood's hottest young stars, she's gone on to prove that she is just as independent and unique as her on-screen characters.
Well, today I took my old prison uniform and I just learned how to sew, and I made it into a dress and a leather jacket and slapped on some heels. Yeah,
She's also been quick to defend the right of fellow stars like Britney Spears to live the lives they please.
I feel bad, because everyone just kind of judges her and splatters her business everywhere, and no one really goes, why is this happening? They just judge and judge and judge. It's too bad.
Dubbed the Prince of Darkness for biting the heads off live bats on stage, Ozzy Osborne's songwriting skills and crazy stage antics helped turn Black Sabbath into one of the most popular heavy metal bands of the 1970s.
So I remember being in a club in Birmingham, and Jim Simpson, the then manager, local guy, said to me, "Your album goes in the charts next week, it's 17, I think." I thought he was pulling my leg, and I said, "You're joking." And we had no idea.
But after reportedly taking LSD every day for 2 years, Ozzy was officially thrown out of the band in 1979 for being unreliable. The downward spiral continued with his divorce from his first wife, Thelma Riley, with whom he had 2 children. By the time he'd been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, the rocker had hit rock bottom. His knight in shining armour arrived in the shape of his former manager's daughter, Sharon, who picked him up, dusted him off, married him, and helped him to solo success in the 80s. But that didn't spell the end of Ozzy's addictions. As his abuse of heroin, cocaine, and alcohol continued, he frequently beat Sharon. One of Ozzy's attacks on her in 1989 landed him in a prison cell on a charge of attempted murder. But the final straw came when Ozzy went on a killing spree, slaughtering all 17 of the couple's cats. Sharon found him cowering under the piano, clutching a shotgun and a knife. Finally managing to get him back on the relatively straight and narrow, Sharon then gave Ozzy the opportunity to endear himself to millions of television viewers by shuffling and mumbling his way through the hit reality show about his family life. The Osbournes proved just as addictive to the stars themselves as to their fans.
Well, it's never going to get back to normal because of the show and how it's changed our lives. It will never be the way that it was 2 years ago. None of our lives will. And every time the crew go, we say, oh, thank God they've gone. Within a week, we're like, where are they? We really miss them. And we start calling them all, come by if you're in the area, we really miss you, and this, that, and the other. And then we're like, just bring them back. We really miss them.
The success of the Osbournes prompted the Hollywood Walk of Fame into action, and Ozzy got a gold star.
I gotta tell you guys, I was absolutely, totally surprised by this one. But I gotta get rid of the thanks. I'd like to thank Johnny Grant, Marilyn Manson, Robbie Williams, Epic Records, my family and friends, and last but not least, you fans, guys. To say this is an honor is not enough, I'm just so overwhelmed with you guys turning out so early in the morning to see my old butt. And once again, thank you very, very much. Thank you. I love you all.
Perhaps the excitement was a little too much. In December 2003, he was herring around on a quad bike when he came a cropper and had to be rushed to hospital with 8 fractured ribs and a broken collarbone. Sharon rushed to his bedside and supervised his recovery at their Buckinghamshire estate. But less than a year later, rotten luck struck again when Ozzy came face to face with 2 burglars. Thankfully, this time, there were no major injuries. The burglars made off with plenty of jewellery and other prized possessions. Despite being listed as one of the UK's richest couples, Sharon wasn't going to take it lying down and offered a £100,000 reward to catch the crooks. She was taking no prisoners, but then, like Ozzy, she'd also just come through a very trying time health-wise. In July 2002, she was diagnosed with colon cancer. Despite the diagnosis, she insisted the cameras keep rolling on the Osbournes' reality show, and later revealed that the cancer had spread to her lymph nodes. She had surgery to remove a foot of her intestines, and then underwent 3 months of chemotherapy. Given only a 33% survival prognosis, her illness had a profound effect on her family. Not only did Ozzy confess to falling apart during her recovery, their son Jack allegedly tried to commit suicide by imbibing a cocktail of absinthe, heroin, sleeping pills, and a can of WD-40. Not long before that, the troubled 14-year-old had checked himself into a children's psychiatric ward in an attempt to beat his addictions to alcohol, pot, and OxyContin. Meanwhile, his big sister Kelly has also generated her fair share of controversy. Apart from rating regular inclusion on the Blackwell's worst dress list, she allegedly underwent a stint in rehab in 2004. 5 years later, her publicist confirmed that Kelly had once again voluntarily entered a rehabilitation clinic, although the reasons were not disclosed. In fact, it was Sharon who first broadcast that news on an online interview, saying that Kelly knew it was the right thing to do and that she was proud of her. While Ozzy's children have had a few troubles keeping their noses clean, the Prince of Darkness himself has reportedly become fanatical about his health. The story goes that it was actually Ozzy who made Sharon get the colon checkup that resulted in the discovery and subsequent successful treatment of her cancer. Having been diagnosed with a form of Parkinson's disease and hearing loss, he realizes it's finally time to take care of himself. Upon being declared a living legend at the Classic Rock Awards, he acknowledged that by rights he shouldn't even be alive, after the decades of intense drug abuse he subjected his poor body to.
I don't know about the living legend bit. I'm glad I'm alive to receive the award, because my lifestyle went crazy for a long while, you know. I mean, I quite enjoy not drinking or getting messed up anymore. I'm not saying I'm a prude or anything, but I kind of remember what I did yesterday.
He also hadn't forgotten that his status as a living legend rather than a dead one owed a lot to the supreme efforts of his better half.
I think that's all down to my wife, because when I met Sharon, I was just a physical, chemical meltdown here. I mean, I just could not get anything together, and I wanted to do something. She turned around to me one night and said, "If you want me to manage you, you've got to start cleaning your act up, and you've got to." Well, I did for a while, but then I went back at it, and she stuck by me through it all. And this is a dedication to my wife, Sharon. She's wonderful. The best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. I love her.
The American Film Institute ranks Grace Kelly as the 13th greatest film star of all time. That incredible achievement becomes positively staggering when taking into account the fact that she appeared in just 11 films over a career that spanned a mere 5 years. She walked out of Hollywood at the age of 26 to marry Prince Rainier, ruler of the tiny but outrageously wealthy Principality of Monaco in Europe. It was billed as the marriage of the century and sparked a global media frenzy. But all the flashing cameras and fanfare couldn't silence the rumours about Grace's colourful past. Tabloid speculation about her affairs dated back to her High Noon days, when it was claimed she was not only carrying on with her married co-star Gary Cooper, but that she was also sleeping with the film's director, Fred Zimmerman. During the making of Dial M for Murder, she caused a furore by allegedly seducing co-star Ray Milland, who was 24 years her senior and married to the very popular Muriel Milland. Grace was branded a homewrecker, despite her claims that Ray had pretended he and Muriel were already separated. Next on Grace's hit list was her country girl and high society co-star Bing Crosby. The two were said to have started an affair while Bing's then-wife Dixie was battling terminal cancer. To complicate matters further, Bing was also allegedly seeing Catherine Grant at the same time, despite the fact that Grace had her heart set on becoming his next wife. During her short film career, she also had to endure rumors she'd had an abortion as a result of a relationship with Russian fashion designer Oleg Cassini. With so much gossip and speculation dogging her in Hollywood, the prospect of a fresh start as a European princess was no doubt a very attractive one. On hearing of her engagement, Alfred Hitchcock was quoted as saying he was very happy that Grace had found herself such a good part. Despite its billing as the wedding of the century, the courtship between the prince and the film star seems to have fallen well short of a fairy tale romance. romance. In fact, it smacked of a good old-fashioned arranged marriage. The press was abuzz with speculation that he was on a mission to find a wife due to the pressure placed on him to produce an heir, while she needed to find a way out of her own private life complications. For the next 20 years, Princess Grace never faltered in her role as the prince's consort and loving mother of his royal children. However, many of her old Hollywood friends felt the weight of her sacrifice. Prior to marrying the prince, her passion for acting had been so consuming that she insisted on interweaving her filming schedule with regular stints in the theatre. But shortly after her marriage, Prince Rainier banned the screening of her films in Monaco. And though he did reluctantly consent to allowing her to star in Hitchcock's 1962 thriller Marnie, the public outcry was so intense she pulled out of the project. And until her tragic death at the age of 52, she never appeared in another film. Playboy founder Hugh Hefner has never made any apologies for objectifying women and splashing their naked bodies across the pages of his X-rated magazine.
There will always be a market for, call it erotica, call it porn, call it whatever you want to call it.
And he should know. After almost 60 years, the men's magazine that was originally going to be called Stag Party is still going strong. Despite being in his 80s, the self-confessed hedonist has clearly lost none of his famous appetite for raunchy parties and hot young members of the opposite sex. Although these days, he never goes anywhere without Viagra.
But I endorse it. It's the best legal recreational drug out there, I think.
In the past, Hef has claimed that his famously liberal philosophy towards sex and drugs has put him in the firing line of the US government, which he insists has always been out to get him. In 1963, he was arrested for selling obscene literature after publishing nude photos of movie star Jane Mansfield.
Well, there are always bumps in the road and things that, you wish could change.
But the man listed by Arena magazine as the second most powerful person in porn has plenty of friends in high places.
He's super sexy, awesome, brilliant. He has such a presence. He's just a eccentric, wonderful, amazing man.
He can also boast the kind of entourage most men a quarter of his age would kill for. On the promotional trail of his reality TV show, The Girls of the Playboy Mansion, he rationalized his well-known penchant for having several girlfriends at once.
Most single people, are sharing their boyfriend or girlfriend with somebody else. If you are dating somebody on Monday and then dating somebody else on Tuesday or Wednesday, this is simply a variation on that. Instead of doing it behind somebody else's back or doing it individually, we hang together and go out together, party together, and it makes it a very nice way to live.
Not the least bit embarrassed about dating women too young to be his granddaughters, he's determined to go out with a bang and remains very proud of his achievements.
In the last few years, young women, the whole new generation, has embraced Playboy as a sign of personal empowerment, and that gives me great satisfaction.
When Hef's final party is over, he'll be buried beside the star of the very first issue of Playboy back in 1953. Although he never actually met Marilyn Monroe, Hugh bought the crypt next to hers in the Westwood Memorial Park Cemetery in LA, so that he can rest eternally in the company of the most famous Playboy bunny of them all.